There you go. Welcome back. Here we are again, Sports Live with Steve and Justin. How are you, Justin?
I'm good, Steve. Thank you for having me once again.
Once again, I pushed the wrong buttons on the intro, so whatever you guys saw, I apologize, but you ended up seeing the intro, and we ended up being here afterwards, so that's pretty good. At least that works. So here we are. First, I'd like to thank everyone. I don't even know what to say about how popular everything's become, and I told a little bit about Justin about it afterwards.
Yeah, I'm blown away by the numbers.
I was writing down some numbers yesterday that, you know, one of our videos, 1,000 views, and I do 3 different podcasts on all kinds of historical events and collecting antiques and all this bull. And I've never had 6,000 views
in a week.
So I went on it. That was yesterday. I went on it today before we came on. We had 7,400 views on the same video.
Very good.
It's really going on. And we have, I don't know if I mentioned to you in our first week of really covering football that we had 20 or so subscribers, and I was happy because we hadn't really done much. Well, we have close to 500 subscribers now.
Fantastic.
And they're coming in leaps and bounds. So thank you to everyone that's subscribed. Thank you, everybody that watches. We're going to continue doing what we do, whatever the hell that is. I'm not really sure, but we do talk about things.
Fun.
That's right. We've been talking a lot about football. We'll probably do that through the season. After football, we'll probably talk about other things. But I have to say that I am so pleased the way everything's working. I enjoy doing this, and I know you do enjoy it too, Justin.
I look forward to it. It's a lot of fun.
And I hope we're making things interesting for people. We look forward to having you either come to the live show, of course, if you'd like. You know, you watch our recorded show afterwards. And what I've been doing is basically processing the live show into a recorded show and putting it out there, because the live shows don't appear that well afterwards. And plus, I edit them so they're a little bit more streamlined, and all the words I stumble over, I delete, and all the ones Justin stumbles over, I leave in, so that at least I look a little bit smarter with all those major league, not in this room, but in my other room, my broadcast room. You see all the degrees on the back of the wall. It doesn't make me smart. It just makes that I paid a lot of money to get all kinds of pieces of paper. But anyway, welcome back. So where do you want to start? I mean, there was something about this football season. Is it always like this? I mean, there's 2 observations I've made. One, that people are getting hurt left and right, and I guess that started last year as well. And I don't think teams are that prepared. And for some reason, Justin, I think there's a relationship here. I think when they change the rules about the beginning and preseason and this and that, people getting hurt, in the beginning of the season, teams are not prepared.
No, they're not getting enough time in practice. I know that the players' union, that was one of their sticking points in the last CBA, was time on the field and practicing so many hours, et cetera, and legislating that. To me, you know, we've talked about it before. I've said, let the coaches coach. If the coaches had their druthers, they'd be on the field a lot longer. These aren't high school athletes that need to go home and study. These aren't, pickup league softball players that can just show up and swing a bat. These are grown men who need time to practice and study these plays and learn these plays, and the coaches are putting in time and a half to make these things happen. And, you know, I think that might be part of the reason why you saw a guy like Belichick with his resume not have really any job offers that were substantial. I thought for sure, even though he was getting on in age, that a franchise would have thought hey, we need to bring this guy in, change the culture, and start winning football games. I know he's having a tough time at Carolina, but that's a whole different animal altogether. The NFL is what it is. And if you're not prepared and you don't have time on the field in practice, it's going to show on Sunday. And we've seen that the first 3 weeks for sure.
And I think another person that's been barred out for whatever happened, and I make no judgments on it because I don't know that much about it, is Gruden. There's another coach that had his team prepared every week and worked really hard. If you've ever, and I'm sure you have, even now he has a YouTube show and you watch him talk about football. I mean, come on. We don't we
Insane
don't
football mind.
we don't understand football like him. He used
No.
to have that show with the quarterbacks. He'd bring in the college quarterbacks,
Yeah, he still does that,
and he still
I
does
think.
it. And he'd bring it in, and you'd be like, "Okay, now what were you thinking right here? Why was your foot? Look at your feet." He'd go, "Look at your
Yeah.
feet. Now watch your feet. Now watch your feet. Now you think that's where your feet go?
What do you see in
You know,
coverage? How are you diagnosing this play?
right. Why are you holding the ball there? Why, like, what was your thought? So you took two steps back. What were you thinking? You know what I mean? Meanwhile, he knows every little bit about it. He knows where your feet should be. He knows everything about it. And his ability to train, especially quarterbacks, to train players is amazing. I mean, every quarterback and any kid that wants to play quarterback should watch those videos.
Yeah, he's got a great knack for teaching young players, but also, like you said about how he asks them what they're looking at, what are they thinking. He's good at understanding their thought process and building on top of it, which I mean, that's a special talent to have as an instructor in any classroom, let alone on the football field.
Right.
Because a lot of times, especially let's say in a classroom, just a regular average high school classroom, you're just teaching what's in the book and they regurgitate it and you move on. And you don't know if they understand it or not. And you give them a test and their grades show their learning capacity.
Right.
But in this situation, he's building, you know, minds of quarterbacks and he's building knowledge and he's taking from you what you know, processing it and giving it back to you so you can build on it, which is just tremendous. And it makes them all better. It has to they have to learn from that,
And coaching
theoretically.
coaching, that leads into my first conversation, I think. Coaching means everything. And coaching, teaching players, teaching young quarterbacks. And I don't mean necessarily young in age, but young in professional life. And my first person I want to mention is somebody you've coined the phrase Indiana Jones. I don't know who got to him, but somebody did. And they brought him an education and a front line and said, go on your way.
Not only is he throwing the ball, he's rushed for a touchdown in 3 straight games.
I know.
So, he's still seeing the field well enough to know when to run, know when to hold him, so to speak.
Right.
And he's finding open receivers in places where before he was under duress. I think that shook his confidence. So even when there were open receivers downfield, he was not able to find them. He seems vastly more relaxed. I mean, it's 3 games into the season, but they have a big test coming up this week and we'll probably get a better gauge maybe. But, so far so good between the coaching, what he's learned since he left the Giants, because it seems like he wasn't really learning much in New York. I hate to say it. I don't want to knock the coaches, but it is what it is. Um, that could be because of the regime change. I don't know. But he's been embraced by the teams he's been on since then, and his teammates love him, and he's spreading the ball all over the place. And so far, so good. If they can keep protecting, he does play behind one of the best offensive linemen in football.
Right.
They have a decent offensive line. They're playing with, they're playing together. They have continuity. Um, so, and it helps. They have a running back who's pretty decent in Taylor. Um, and I guess their defense has been, you know, better than average.
Right.
And it just makes for better all around play from everybody. And when you start to win games, guys start to get better. It elevates their play. So, we'll see how that finishes there. It's still early. They are 3-0. When they get into a game where there's pressure and you start seeing different looks from better defenses and better coaching against or ahead of you, then we'll see what he's really made of. The similarity being somebody like Sam Darnold last year going 14-3 with Minnesota, and now Daniel Jones starting 3-0. What is that going to look like at the end of the season? And I'm not rooting against him, but I know there's a lot of people out there that now are looking at it like they want him to fail because they don't want to believe that he's not who he was when he was with the Giants because they're going to have a lot of egg on their face.
That is very true. I think there's more to that. I think there is egg on their face already. I think,
Sure.
oh, well, he got to the playoffs, but he didn't do well when he got there. Well, guess what? The Giants didn't get to the playoffs. The Giants were done with games left to play. They weren't there at the end. They weren't there in the middle.
They weren't there. They weren't present in games that they were even winning sometimes. I remember him, he broke a long run and he tripped over like the 15-yard line. I mean, it was a clear touchdown. He was by himself and he just
Right.
tripped and fell. And the camera pans to the sidelines and these guys are all laughing it up and yucking it up. Ha ha, And I'm thinking to myself, what is so funny about that?
Yeah.
You didn't score. You haven't won a game yet. That's funny. It's not, I mean, it's funny if you win the game, you can look back and say, you got bit by the turf monster. Ha ha.
Right.
But in the moment, that's nothing to laugh about. You've got to circle the wagons and get that touchdown. You've got to
Right.
get in the end zone. There's vastly more important things going on in the game at that moment than laughing at that. And that to me is a reflection of the coach.
Absolutely.
Look at Andy Reid. He got in Kelsey's ass this week. I mean, he bumped him on the sideline. He went right up to him and knocked into him and then followed him down the sideline, yelling and screaming at him. I don't know what that was over, but, we talked about last week.
I read a quote from Andy Reid because I tried to search it out. And he said, Kelsey has his head of the game. His foot's always on the gas. Once in a while, he always seems to know when to push and when not to push. He really does know, even though that at that moment I wasn't sure he did, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So like I mentioned last week, the one shot of him screaming at his teammates, I'm sick of this crap. And then he drops that ball in the end zone. The guy makes a play and he jogs after like I said, I don't expect you to catch the defender, but anything can happen between the moment he catches the ball and when he's tackled or, God forbid, scores a touchdown. What if that guy trips over the 15-yard line and you
Right.
weren't hustling the whole way? The
Well,
guy can't drop the ball. Something bad can't happen.
the thing about Kelsey is that he used to, which he doesn't right now, he used to have people around him. He has nobody around him.
No,
That team is without any other quarterback on that team. I mean, Patrick Mahomes scores 11 points on his own, basically, does some crazy crap, throws the ball, makes an unbelievable pass, and he was off as can be. He overthrew so many balls in that game and everything, but I mean, you can attribute probably 11 points in their scoring to Patrick Mahomes
being Patrick Mahomes.
But there's nobody else that can make a play. There's no, hill that was on it. It would break one and it'd go. And
Yeah, it seems like there's some inconsistency in their offense, and Patrick is taking on a lot of the weight of that. You saw it in last week's game in the first half against Philly. It really looked like he was trying to drag his team to a victory in the first quarter.
right.
Not taking anything for granted that if they were going to win that game, he had to play his best game. And if everybody else around you isn't up to that task, that's when it becomes hard to win in the NFL.
It's interesting. My girlfriend asked me, she goes, how does the team play that well for so long and then get creamed in the Super Bowl and then can't seem to recover? I said, would you ever hear the name Roger Bannister? And she's like, no. I said, he broke the 4-minute mile. I said, and you know what? Everyone said it was impossible. And then the next year, 3 other guys broke it, or 4 other guys broke it.
Yeah.
And we saw they had an amazing year, mostly Patrick keeping him in the game. We saw that they were mortal. And now we all know he's mortal.
Not only that, I think the rest of the AFC they weren't ready to I thought maybe we'd see Baltimore take that step. We were wrong, I guess.
Right. So
The
far,
rest of the
it's
AFC
early.
it was like no one wanted to take it yet. They wanted they couldn't take it from them. And they were certainly right for the picking. I mean, I don't think that's unfair to say. But again, down the stretch and in the playoffs, coaching matters more than ever, as good as your players are, and no one is more prepared I think, than perhaps Andy Reid. Although this year that might be Jim Harbaugh.
And Harbaugh's got a team.
They loaded up. I mean, they're not great at every position, but they're solid. They have football players. They have guys that are bought into his program. I know they just lost their running back. Najee Harris, I think, is out for the season.
Yeah,
So they're left with Omari and Hampton and Hassan Haskins, who that's his boy, right? So, and he went and picked him out of the Big Ten. So we'll see how that transpires. Those guys are going to be motivated to play. I know Haskins will be motivated to play. He's got that kind of heart and character in him to play to win games,
right.
and not the type of player to take things for granted. So they may be okay. They'll probably have to bring in another set of legs off the practice squad, or maybe they'll trade for somebody. There's certainly players out there that could get traded. Um, but on defense, they're playing really well. I know they dodged kind of a bullet with Khalil Mack last week's injury. It looked like he had a torn pectoral muscle or his elbow or something like that in that play where he got caught up. But he's got the brace on, and I don't he didn't play this week, I don't think, right?
I don't
But
think
he's
so.
he's not out. So that if they can stay healthy and right, he beat 3 Hall of Fame coaches to go 3-0 so far this year. And they got I think they have the Giants this week, right?
I
They're
believe
I
so.
in New York. So, I mean, to beat Sean Payton and Andy Reid, who's the third one?
But don't they got like a miserable schedule where they have to go to
Yeah, they have
Ireland or something, and then England, and then come back,
they're
and
playing some crazy
some crazy schedule.
crazy schedule. And that listen,
I'm pretty sure it's them.
that that can that can either bind a team together and forge unity, which, again, this is where coaching matters. The coach is going to have to keep them and their head in the game, so to speak, with all of these things, you know, ahead of them. So it's still 1 week at a time, but that's why you need a head coach who has a little weight to
Right.
manage these guys and these personalities. And, I think he can do it. I think he's up for that task.
Good. I thought everything that happened to them were interesting. I think Harbaugh is underestimated in the NFL. I mean, he won a national championship, so you can't underestimate him in college. I didn't think he was going to be able to do that. I was surprised, but I always thought he was a really good pro coach.
He took a team to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, he had the guts to make the decision on a quarterback in the middle of that season, and second year quarterback in Kaepernick, and he got all the way to the Super Bowl. And he lost to his brother. I mean, go figure. That's storybook stuff.
But that team his brother's team was pretty damn good.
Oh no, I mean they had Ed Reed and Ray Lewis still. They were that team. We talk about dragging you across the finish line. They were not going to lose. They were determined to come back and finish it off and win one before that team broke up. But yeah, they were a solid football team.
So we talked a little bit about the Giants. I mean, talk about a solid football team. I don't know what. It's almost like he's playing games with us, and that's Jerry Jones. I mean,
Ugh,
I think he made a comment back in August of this year that, football, that the Cowboys are something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing, that the Cowboys are a soap opera, and he enjoys stirring them up every once in a while to make it interesting. Well,
he
first of all,
pushes every button.
every button. And he was asked, and I'll read this because I want to quote him right so he doesn't give me a hard time. I don't get more stuff from the NFL later on. When he was asked about whether he thought the Cowboys were a playoff team even after this dismal start, and he said, "I'll tell you, yes. It's because you saw number 4 out there today, and you saw what we're capable of doing with the run game. So I,
Shots
I,
fired. CD
I
Lamb.
yeah." I'm not quite sure, and CeeDee Lamb's hurt, and I think he's out for the year. Is that
No,
correct?
he's got a high ankle sprain, and
Oh,
he's week to week right now. And he did say he's going to try and play on Sunday.
is that what it is? So
Yeah,
he was when
but that was a pretty bad injury.
you saw that video, I had to turn
Yeah,
away after the first time.
yeah, it was not. It looked worse, I guess, than it is. It certainly could have been vastly worse.
It should have snapped the way it fell.
Yeah, it was.
And then he continues, as we evolve towards the playoffs, we have to get better, definitely, certainly. And
Well,
when asked about CeeDee Lamb and the injury, he made some cryptic thing when he said, you see how one player can really make a difference in your team, and about his injury. And you want to say to him, didn't you
did you just trade that guy?
didn't you just trade that guy that makes that could make your defense totally different?
Yeah. He's on an island by himself. I mean, he's just all spin. It's amazing.
So when they show him, when they show pictures of him and you see him make a face and then you see all his family looking at him to see his reaction, I mean,
It's comical.
yeah,
It's a circus.
it's like a romantic comedy where the father is this billionaire who
Can't get out of his own way.
can't get out of his own way or whatever. And all you have to know about you feel bad for Jerry Jones. All I want you to do is remember out there that he bought the team for $140 million. Okay, and
They got
then
to be worth over 10 billion at this point. Maybe
uh,
more, 15 million.
and,
I mean, kudos to him for building the brand even bigger than it was. And they did win early. Give him credit for that.
I guess
It's just been, yeah, it is a different league now. It's not the same league it was when Jerry brought the team, right?
right.
Um,
Well, he threw out one of the best coaches that ever lived, Tom Landry. Right?
yeah,
Fired
I
him. He
mean,
could have put him in
Tom was there
whatever.
for a long time.
Long time, but one of the best. I mean, he's on the Lombardi chain,
Yeah,
right? When they were all at the Giants and when they were
they're
all
all with the
whatever.
Giants, offensive and defensive coordinators and coaches, and yeah,
And
a lot of NFL royalty there.
a lot of NFL royalty there. I mean, yeah, listen.
But he did, to his credit, he brought in Jimmy Johnson. Then he ran Jimmy out of town, which,
Because Jimmy got the credit because he's the one that made the team.
right.
And the
And
greatest trade in known history.
Jerry's like, well, I'm paying for everything. Well, no, duh, you're the owner. Like I always say, let the coaches coach.
And you're getting all the money too, Jerry, so
Right.
don't really worry about it.
And then they went through a series of, Barry Switzer and Callahan and this guy and that. I mean, it was all about, it's kind of like, it's like what they say about Arnold Schwarzenegger, that he has to be the prettiest person in the relationship, that he has to see himself as better looking than his counterpart. And I think Jerry suffers the same kind of narcissistic ego where he's got to be looked at as the brains
Right.
and the man of, behind the curtain and all that. Just, you're the Cowboys. You've got the brand. Find a coach that can coach and let him coach. Because theoretically, who doesn't want to coach the Cowboys?
Right.
It's the Cowboys. We may not like it in New York. It's what it is, but they're the Cowboys. It is America's team. It is. So who doesn't want to be there? You think a guy like Harbaugh wouldn't take that job? I mean, McCarthy took that job. I don't particularly think McCarthy was a great coach. I know he won a Super Bowl, but I think that's because of Charles Woodson, but that's my opinion. Not taking anything away from Aaron Rodgers, but coaches will want to. I mean, he had Parcells there, and Parcells had the courage of his convictions when he put Romo in the game, and they were successful. Now, Tony Romo had some just terrible luck, and we've talked about that before.
Oh yeah.
Which, when to me, what justifies his play on the field is when you listen to him broadcast these games and break down these games. He's great. I don't know that anybody's better, and he's got a great football mind. So, a guy like him, maybe he belongs in the coach's box somewhere, but
No money in it.
yeah, yeah, you got to have a real passion.
I mean, look what he's making now. What does he need to do anything else? I would do that for the rest of my life.
Speaking of which, how about Tom Brady double dipping with he's in the booth, but he's in the room with the offense of the team that his team is playing the following week.
So weird.
which I don't understand.
I don't understand, and you know, you blame. I don't know who you blame. I mean, is it the NFL's fault?
I blame the commissioner of the NFL because he's the one with the power and authority to dictate all of these things, right? It's up to him to have things in place to police this stuff from not happening or avoiding the bad optics. Do I think it made a huge difference or will make a huge difference? No, but it can. I mean, and not to mention Brady's the owner of the team in Vegas where all the gambling is happening. I still can't believe there's pro franchises in Las Vegas. This has gone off a tangent. The NFL has gone off this tangent where I never thought we'd see anything like that. And all these little things are factors.
Well, I think the NFL likes leaving things unclear
Oh, yeah.
because then
Works to
they
their advantage.
works to their advantage. They do whatever they want to do. They look at Tom Brady and say, this is the greatest living player, arguably, maybe not even arguably. I mean, the guy was one of the best I ever saw, and I don't even think he's that talented. I think he has the greatest heart and will of any player I've seen since, I don't know, but he, since Johnny Unitas, maybe.
Just a different kind of person. And he had
Different
the
kind of
right
person.
coach.
And he had
I
the
don't,
right coach.
yeah, because Belichick took care of everything else. Tom ran his offense. You know, I've heard Jet fans cry, well, if we had Tom Brady, we would have won it. No, you wouldn't have. You didn't have the coaching. You didn't have you may have had the personnel, but it's unfair to say that, if they went from, oh, he's a system quarterback to, oh, well, he, obviously not because he went to Tampa Bay and won another Super Bowl. So you can't say that about him.
No, but he was there already. I mean,
Yeah.
he was there, and he went to Tampa Bay, and he ended up with a good coach and got good things and put people put there.
Won immediately.
And he got
They plugged him
oh,
in, won a Super Bowl.
plugged him in. He said, "Oh, we need a tight end. I got a guy for you. Don't worry, I'll get him to come back." Gronk, hello, come on,
Yeah.
give me another. Didn't I make you famous? Come
Yeah, and
and
Gronk was going to retire or was retired, but
right.
the Patriots were going to trade him to Cleveland at one point, and he threatened to retire at 27 or 28, whatever it was at the time. Kudos to him. And then he made his own path, Gronk.
And so then he goes down there and work. He's not coming back. We won a Super Bowl. I'm not coming back again, Tom. I gave you what I got. I'm not coming back anymore. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, but it's hard to say Tom Brady isn't one of the greatest. I mean, it's hard to say what he's done. We know how hard it is to get back to the Super Bowl. Teams have a hard time
It's hard enough to
getting
win 10
back.
games.
I
You
mean,
know?
it's really hard, and every game he's 120%. He's always let's go," and that's his famous phrase. Does he take every advantage and every edge? Absolutely. So does Belichick. So does
That's what winners do.
so when everyone else does. We can get away with it. Listen, years ago they used to throw spitballs, right, and get away with it. So all kinds of things. That's how it works. And they worked very hard and they were very successful. And he and Belichick would sit down and they would plan out strategies of players and this and that. And it wasn't like Bill was doing it all by himself. Tom and him were doing it together. And they would talk about this guy and he would call him in. You got to take less money. Tom, you take less money. All right, I'll take less money. You'll give it to this guy. You'll bring that guy in. And they really had a full strategy about
Yeah.
what they were going to do. And they kept talk players into not leaving. I mean, listen, he was talking about Edelman the other day because the New England gave him the Patriots Hall of Fame jacket. And Tom was saying, the guy would come out 120%. He needs it. It
Yeah.
was great.
He
You
worked, he
know?
did everything that was
Ugh.
asked of him, and he gave you 110% every week. That's why you can't just say, well, if this team had Tom Brady or that team had Tom Brady. It's unfair to say that. Um, Obviously, the Patriots wouldn't have won those Super Bowls, but who knows? I mean, There are so many factors, so many factors that come into play. I mean, the Chargers had them beat twice, right? We talked about that. One guy intercepts the ball and instead of just taking a knee, he starts running. They tackle him. He fumbles. They kick a field goal, and the Patriots go to the Super Bowl. So, and that happened like 2 years in a row with them.
Being around the ball,
No, yeah,
being
that's
around the ball.
finish the
But
game. You got to finish the game.
not
Yeah.
very many teams could have come back on Atlanta during that. They saw the opening, they saw the weakness, they saw it, and they were killers. You gave them an inch, and they took a yard, as they say.
Well, that game, to me, that game was lost when they didn't run the football at the end and
Right.
just kick the field goal and get out of there. They opened the door for the Patriots.
Right.
And a team like that, you give them an inch, they are going to take 3 or more. So, that's where coaching matters most in situations like that. I know the guy wanted to put the game away and, run the football. Just run the football. Call a timeout, bring your offensive line to the sideline, challenge them to be better than the 4 or 5 guys in front of them, and load up and go. You got to inspire guys in games like that. And, if you ever saw Belichick on the sideline screaming at his defense and holding the clipboard or holding the iPad and showing them the paper where everybody's lined up, we have to do this. We can beat this guy. We can do this. It matters. You can't just sit under the headset and hope for the best.
Well, in football, it's kind of like a cycle. And that is when you win the Super Bowl, as we know, you get the hardest schedule next year. It's to do parody if you want to listen to parody.
I think it's fair that the way they line that up.
Right.
Sure.
So, and the worst team gets the easiest schedule and the best picks. So it kind of balances things out.
Sure.
So you'll see these teams win a couple of Super Bowls, right? And then players leave and whatever. But usually the quarterback and the coach.
I think the Rams and Sean McVay are probably a good example of that.
Right. And then what happens? They don't play so well because they have the toughest schedule. They've lost some players. They have to restructure. So they don't play so well. So they get a weaker schedule the third year or the fourth year, whatever it is. And they get the better, more draft picks. And if the coaches made the right moves, and all of a sudden, the fifth year, they gave their quarterback a big contract, obviously. The fifth year, all of a sudden, they're back up there again because they've refilled in the right players. They've come up with that game plan again. They've worked to their players' strengths. They worked to their quarterback strengths. They did all these things. The owners stand back and just write checks. They have a really good GM who can see the future and outline it with the coach, complement each other without banging his shoe, without his feet on his desk. And you know what I'm referring to? And then there are constantly good teams with good execs and that end up on that cycle win. And that's what you saw with the
49ers are a good
Patriots.
example of that.
The 49ers.
I think the Chiefs might be in that wheelhouse right now where they're looking at the reality of not being a very good football team. But if I told you the Chiefs were going to go 3-14 this year or 4-12 or whatever it is, 4 and whatever, would it be out of the realm to think that they'd be back again in a year or two with Patrick Mahomes and reloaded for another Super Bowl run?
Right. The question is they going to have that coach? He may be running to the end. I mean, he's not 20 years old anymore, as we know.
No.
And
I think
I think he's almost
still
done.
A good coach.
He's a great coach. I don't think he should be fired.
No.
I just think he's kind of, it wears you out after a while. He went through this in Philadelphia. He's going through it here.
I think the difference here being that, he has a relationship with Patrick Mahomes that, he may want to see that through to the end. I think that maybe that'll come down to whether or not Patrick is on board if he lobbies to keep Andy Reid in the building.
Right.
I think it would be a great loss to the Chiefs.
You also have some of the greatest ownership in the NFL. You have the Hunt family.
They're not going to make a change just for the sake of making a change.
Absolutely.
They've had 3 great head coaches in there in their history. And it's an organization that wants to win. The ownership does not interfere with football operations.
I hope you're considering Hextram in those
Of
three.
course. Yeah. Yeah, of course.
He was a great.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Every team is going to follow a different model. The owners of these teams play significant roles. The ones that play significant roles that pester or meddle or inject themselves into football conversations, typically those teams don't win. The Jets, the Cowboys, right? I mean, you got these billionaire owners that
Want to be on
maybe
television.
maybe Ed DeBartolo is an exception to the rule
Maybe.
because he seemed to be very involved, but they had a football acumen, and it was a different league. They could just buy great players and put a tremendous roster on the field. It's not taking anything away from Bill Walsh or Seifert or anybody that coached there, including you know,
Bill
gosh, well,
Walsh.
yeah.
Bill Walsh.
So I believe that the Chiefs will be, as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, they're going to be relevant. And he just turned 30 years old.
I
You know
know.
what I mean? So if you're going to make a switch, I don't know who the next head coach would be. Let's say they would get rid of Andy Reid, but they're going to bring somebody in who has some football pedigree, football acumen, somebody they can just turn over the keys to and walk away and let them do their thing. And I'm sure that it will include keeping Patrick on the roster. I can't imagine they would not want him as part of their future at this point if they did make that change. So kudos to the Chiefs for keeping continuity within the organization and
Remember they
not
bought.
panicking and, you know,
Um, Jones may have bought the team for 140 million. I mean, the Hunts probably bought the team for $2,500. So I don't know. It's like, I don't know, not that little, but a small amount compared to whatever else. So in the new stadium, they were able to get an apartment. They had to pay for the whole thing because you can't have apartments, and they basically hide in there. They don't go in front of the press. They don't. They stay out of the way, and that's. I mean,
look at
that's
the
what he learned
Eagles,
from
right?
his father. Eagles the same way.
The Eagles owner was kind of somebody who has, an ego and a mouth and, had a penchant for, big name players and all that. He's turned it over to this new regime, and they know how to draft football players and they know how to coach. I mean, they didn't just fall into this roster. They built this roster. And those things matter. When you look at how the Eagles built their roster versus other teams that had higher draft picks than them, they do the best they do a really good job of drafting and cultivating talent and moving guys in and out. And, you know, they're exceptional at finding talent where other teams seem not to be able to find talent.
Right.
Look at the guy who blocked the kick and ran it back for a touchdown. Jordan Davis out of Georgia is just a mountain of a man, and he lost like 30 pounds coming into the season, his best shape of his life. I think that's part of their culture to make sure that I don't think he just went out and did that on his own. I mean, I'm sure he wanted to, but he was probably positively influenced by his coaches and his teammates to take on that challenge. And he's playing great. Guy runs back a touchdown after blocking a field goal. But that wasn't it just he's a great player. He was a great player at Georgia when he was in college. And he slipped, I don't want to say slipped, but he was drafted by the Eagles at 13th, and for the Eagles to get their hands on a player of that caliber at 13, to me that was a gift. You know, Conversely, you look at the Jets who had 2 picks in that draft, and they're still the same old Jets. They took Garrett Wilson, and first they took Sauce with the 4th overall pick, and I'm not a believer in taking cornerbacks early at all in these drafts, especially when they're seemingly always available via free agency. I did not think he was the best talent in that range of players for that draft. If I were the Jets, I would have taken both guys from Georgia in the top 10 because not only is Jordan Davis a tremendous player, but Devontae Wyatt was also in that draft and he went
Right.
later, but he's on the Packers. Why do you think the Packers traded the guy that they traded to Dallas to bring in Micah Parsons because they had a guy like Wyatt in the hopper. He's another one. So imagine those two guys coming out of Georgia and playing on your defensive front. It just makes things so much easier, you know.
They had a good
Yeah,
defense before.
you want to get skill players with those draft picks. I understand that, but you still want the best football players that are going to help your team. And sometimes these defensive linemen, they slip through the cracks because they're defensive linemen. It's not a sexy pick. But when a guy like that is available, a difference maker, somebody who can not only stop the run but get after the quarterback, kudos to them and the Eagles for drafting well because they've put together a really solid roster.
And what you've heard from every game we've watched some together and some apart. Boy, that line looks great. Boy, that line's falling apart. Boy, that defensive line is really coming to the quarterback and working the run. Boy, that defensive line is just not good enough to keep pressure on the quarterback to stop him from making plays. These are the things you hear every game this season.
Every week.
Every week, every game, people are talking about the defensive line and the offensive line. Listen, I know there's injuries and you got to put rookies in to play these positions sometimes, but hopefully you don't put them all in. You have the other game the other night, I forget which game it was. They had maybe it was Thursday night, two rookie guards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is, and you brought up Green Bay and, their loss to Cleveland was, I don't even know what to say now. I think we can maybe agree now that Cleveland has some crazy ass defensive players, some of them.
Yeah, they do have, I mean, Myles Garrett might be the best player in the league.
Right.
And he was in their backfield all day long on Sunday. And they've got one of their draft picks, some middle linebackers, he goes sideline to sideline. So they're up and coming, if you will. But again, it starts up front.
Right.
It's the guys up front.
So here's a team that's not very good, the Cleveland Browns. Everybody agrees they're not very good. Yet, because they have such a good defensive line, they're able to
They kept them in the game.
Make plays and kept them in the game. And at the end of the day, they won.
Yeah. I mean,
to the win, I mean, they lost to the Packers, where everybody was saying was going to be the best team in the league. I mean, they beat the Packers. I don't mean lost to. The Green Bay lost to Cleveland, everyone was wondering if they were going to get a win. And next thing you know, they beat Green Bay. And just another interesting quote from Micah Parsons. And you wonder if this is why he never really got along well with his teammates. And after this, they had a 55-yard walk-off kick from the Browns, a field goal. And he quotes, and I quote, "Sometimes it's just like today, you shit the bed," he says. That's just the reality of it. It happens to the best teams. It happens to Super Bowl champs, make mistakes, and they pay for it early. You go back through history of the champions and who've they played, the games they should have won. It's part of the NFL. It's just like competitive. It's hard to win. It's hard as hell to win football games. So when you win football games, it's a celebration. But when you lose, it sucks. I mean, he also, and it's not specifically in this quote, he talks about, it's tough to go undefeated. I mean, what?
No one's asking you to go undefeated, right? You're going to lose games. Yes, it does happen in the NFL. But to compare yourself to a Super Bowl champion and winners, you haven't won a damn thing yet. You may be the best edge rusher, the second best edge rusher. 4 of the last 5 years, the best edge rusher. But what have you won? What have you done to allow you that comment, right? So here's a guy with his own podcast who talks every week about the state of the union on the franchise, whatever. Some guys are the voice of the franchise because they have things to say they don't give you much, but they keep it close to the vest, but they give you a wise comment. I don't mean a wisecrack, but they say something wise. They give you wisdom. Other guys want to be out there and in front of the camera and say whatever to pretend to be the leader of the team. And I think there's a little bit of that going on here. You lost to the Cleveland Browns. Okay, you went, but does it happen? Sure, it happens. We see it all the time. But this in the beginning of the season, you're coming in rolling high. You've got your defense is playing great. And, I mean, they had them, to be fair, it was 10-3 with 3 minutes and 18 seconds left. So obviously their offense didn't show up, or maybe Cleveland's defense is just that good.
Right.
But to say that, oh, this happens, I I'm sorry, but to me that's not it sounds like an excuse. You've got to take it on the chin and say, you know what, we've got to be better. They caught us today. It won't happen again. We're going next week. We're playing whoever they're playing next week. Excuse me. And it won't happen again. In fact, they're playing Dallas this week. So, are you going to go into Dallas and go, well, they have a lot of talent. I should know. I was there, and if they beat us, well, I mean, it happens. And now you're 2-2. That's not a champion. That's not somebody who's gearing to win a Super Bowl. You don't have to go undefeated, but you can't excuse losses. If you don't hate losing more than you love winning, you're not a champion. Maybe that's the wrong attitude, but I know Derek Jeter has that attitude, and he won multiple championships.
Right.
So, if you're just going to say, yeah, it happens, I can't accept that. And if I'm somebody on that football team, this guy's supposed to be a captain or a leader in the locker room. What do you mean it happens? We got beat today. We need to get back to work. The coach needs to figure out how to score more points, and we need to learn how to finish games because we had a 10-3 lead with 3 minutes left and we lost the game. Champions don't do that. If you told me, hey, they had our number from the beginning and they punched us in the mouth and the final score was, 35-31 or 33-34, whatever. It was a back and forth game. It was a struggle. They put up a good fight and they just beat us. I can accept that answer. This game was 10-3 in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes left. You have to win that game. Come hell
Absolutely.
or high water. You finish that game if you want to be a champion. And then you don't lose that game and compare yourself to Super Bowl champions when you haven't won anything.
Absolutely. He hasn't done anything. He's made some good plays in games they should have won,
Great player.
and they lost.
Yep.
Dallas.
Yes, I agree.
For variety of reasons. Listen, one of those years they lost their quarterback for a while. I'm not a big fan of their quarterback in Dallas anyway, but that's not to say he isn't good. He's good enough to win, right? If you have a good team, he's a quarterback that's good enough to win. Is he
Dak
going
is good enough to win games.
and is he going
He's
to
not afraid
carry?
to sling it.
Is he going to carry the team on his back? No, he's not. But he gets to a game, he'll make some plays, and you'll win the game if you have the people around him. So
I agree. And they do have that kind of talent.
and
And their offensive line is still tremendous.
but back to Parsons a minute. I mean, you have to say to yourself, first of all, this guy shouldn't be speaking for the team anyway. He's been there
Yeah,
3
I
days.
agree.
He's been there 20 days. He hasn't been there a month yet. And somehow he's speaking for the team. He should keep his mouth shut. He really
You
should.
can't be talking Super Bowl in week 3 after losing to the Browns.
Yeah.
It's just, you can't do that.
Yeah.
If you told me it was 10-3 and you lost to Minnesota, a division game where the teams know each other inside and out, and it's a dogfight every time they play, all right. But you still can't talk about being a Super Bowl champion when you haven't been one and it's only week 3. You can't do that.
So on that note, you want to move to the Jets for a minute?
Oh, I'm licking my chops for that one.
So I would put it like this, and I think they played a team that left it wide open, that kind of pulled back with some minutes to play, and the Jets went after him a little bit. And I'm surprised, to be honest.
That the Jets came back in that game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I give credit to the Jets there. And I know, some guys are upset with Aaron Glenn dancing on the sidelines, but that's emotion. If that's what it takes to
Absolutely.
get your team fired up, look at how Belichick was criticized for not showing any emotion whatsoever,
Right.
whether it was in a press conference or the sidelines. This guy's out there I mean, he loves the Jets. He is a Jet. He wants them to win in the worst way, and I think that is what you saw with the emotion coming out.
Not for
So
anything, the guy jumped over the player without touching him, blocked the kick,
oh,
picked it up, and ran it back for a touchdown. I'm not even a Jet fan. I was practically dancing
yeah.
watching it.
I mean,
You went
that's
inside to get a drink or something. I'm
I came out the
screaming,
score.
screaming, Justin, you're not going to believe it. And I figured out, like, it was
I had to go back and watch because I
unbelievable.
couldn't believe it wasn't a penalty on the play, but it was clean. So kudos to the Jets. Kudos to their coaching staff, and kudos to the player himself for making the play and picking it up and running it back.
And what do you hear? The Jets have a defense. The Jets have a good defense. And what happens? The other team, after they're ahead, finally do all this crap, catch up. I don't know how many points it was.
Oh, it was a field goal
21.
that beat him.
Yeah, but they came back all the way.
Oh yeah,
They scored, and whatever it is, they came back all the way to get up a point, and there's a minute and 40 left, I think. And what happens? The defense just has to hold them. They hold them.
you have to finish.
The
We've seen
kickoff,
it 3 weeks in a row with multiple teams that can't finish these games.
the kickoff coverage is weak at best, and I understand no one knows what they're supposed to do on the kickoffs. And the kickoff is weak. They don't hold him. He gets out pretty far. They make a first down. The guy makes a run for it. Next thing you know, they're in field goal range in 3 seconds, and then they
Yeah.
move it up and move it up, move it up.
So, a couple things there. Give the Jets credit for fighting and coming back. And I know, a lot of people don't have respect for Tampa Bay. A lot of people don't have any respect for Baker Mayfield, but Baker Mayfield has shown the last 3 weeks and last year too. And I'm not just talking fantasy stats. Baker Mayfield plays like a winner. He is keeping his team in games, and he's finishing games, and he's making drives at the end of the games to help his team win. He's doing everything you would want your quarterback to do if you were the Giants or the Jets
Right.
or any of these organizations that have been scrambling to find a quarterback. So kudos to him for that. And then, you have this opportunity to finish this game, and the offense, Tampa Bay, essentially put it in the hands of their best player, their wide receiver, Egbuka. Okay. You've got Sauce Gardner covering him, who I said in the beginning of the season about the philosophy of this defense and what they're going to do. Sauce cannot cover one-on-one, locked up tight in man coverage. He can't do it.
Agreed.
He can't. So if he's going to be somebody who plays off, then play off. And on that play, he locked up one-on-one, tight coverage, on the line of scrimmage. He was, what was he, 3 yards off, not even, from the receiver. And he beat him on a go route. He just beat him right down the field. And Sauce did not recover, didn't look back for the ball. By the time the play transpired, it was too late. That's not a number 4 overall draft pick. It's just not. That's not a number 1 corner. It is not. And it's a rookie wide receiver.
Right.
So I don't care how good he is. He's still a rookie, and he beat you down the field and put his team in field goal range, and they won the game. So
But
for
he
all of the celebrating
out
beforehand,
he broke out some runs where he was caught, and his passing was just average, I thought. But he broke out, made some first downs with his legs, broke out on the Jet defense, ran circles around him.
yeah, I mean he can sling it, but he knows when to pull it and run. And sometimes you want to see him get rid of the ball a little sooner and not hold on to it. But when he takes off running, he knows what to do with the football. I mean,
They love him
he
there.
he
They were
wills his team
screaming
to
his
victory.
name.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, it's not pretty. It doesn't look like Tom Brady back there. I mean, you're not going to see Tom Brady running around like that. But winners win. That's Mike's famous quote: "Winners win." And that guy willed his team to victory at the end there and made the play when he had to. And that's really what counts. He saw that one-on-one coverage. The safety rolled off. He dropped a dime in there. And I mean, the guy made a great play.
right.
Don't get me wrong. But I mean, you can't say that was Revis type coverage when you're looking at Sauce Gardner trailing behind the guy. He didn't lock him up. He didn't force him out of bounds. He didn't stay ahead of him. He did nothing to indicate to me that, on that play, he's worthy of being a number one corner in this league, an all pro, a pro bowler, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, this is a guy who just got a fairly decent contract.
Right. So I'm just going through the games I was going to start talking about next week, but I think there's a couple of things we should just at least touch on. And I think that is the Chicago Bears play against the Cowboys.
They physically whipped the Cowboys' ass yesterday. I think that they played inspired football, especially after that strip fumble when he caught the running back from behind
Right.
and took the ball away in the first quarter. And from that moment on, it seemed like this was a team that had their defining moment. And I'm not saying they're going to win a Super Bowl, but if Ben Johnson is going to take this team to the next level and they're going to progress, this will be a moment when they look back and say, this was a building block. This was something we did. We took advantage of it. We kept the momentum going and we kicked their ass.
Right. So I think there's hope there, and
And they finished because Dallas had a chance to come back in that
Right.
game. And at one point, it looked like maybe Caleb Williams, who was not perfect at all on Sunday. I mean, he made some terrible throws. He made some
Right.
great throws.
Made some good throws. The flea flicker was
The
out of
flea
this world.
flicker, I mean, the toss back on the flea flicker was enough to put a quarterback in panic mode, right? You've got to that ball's up in the air. It's basically up for grabs. You've got to come down with it and then sling it. And I think what you saw there was a guy who can make a play when he doesn't have to think about what's going on. He can just throw the ball.
Yeah, because when you look up in the air, you take your eyes off the defensive
Of
player. They're
course.
coming there to kill you.
Right. I mean, that showed incredible concentration to make that play and then poise to make that throw. So kudos to him for that. Obviously, it's the coaches are probably having a heart attack while that flea flickers in the air, like, oh my God. But that play inspired them too, obviously, and they kept the momentum. And their defense, you know, the offense had to move the ball in the second half, and even early in the third quarter, which there's plenty of time left for Dallas. There were moments where you thought, "Oh, are they going to give this game away?" Because you at that point you want to see them finish, and then the defense just kept coming. They were relentless. They poured it on, and they really put it to Dallas.
So tonight's game seems to be the game of the week, if you ask me. The Lions and Ravens.
So this game started with 5.5. The line was 5.5. It moved to 4.5 today. Detroit was getting 5.5. Now they're getting 4.5. You have some injuries on the Baltimore side. Vanoy's still out. But yeah, both these offenses are incredible. Incredible talent on both sides. I would give a slight edge to this Detroit defense in terms of talent. And the Baltimore defense is not the Baltimore defense of yesteryear. It's this team goes as their offense goes, and they're going to be hard pressed to not be in a dogfight tonight. I'm sure. You know, if you're a Baltimore fan, you're looking for Lamar Jackson to sling it all over the field. You're looking for Zay Flowers to get open on plays. You're probably hoping that DeAndre Hopkins can find his way through that defense and make some big plays and open up the run game so that you can put it away at some point with Derrick Henry. That's probably their mantra every week. But their defense has not allowed them to relax on offense, and they're not going to be able to relax tonight. I mean, Detroit's coming for sure. So if you're a Detroit fan, you're looking at getting after the quarterback because you do have a premier edge pass rusher in Aiden Hutchinson. Your defense is healthy now as opposed to last year. They were destroyed and decimated by injury. So you're hopeful, definitely as a Detroit fan, to come into this game and they're 1-1, right? I think they're 1-1. I think, in fact, both teams are 1-1.
So it's a big game. Both teams need to win this game.
They do, and it's an out of conference game, so it's one of those games where you have to win that game to have it in the bag. You want that game, and not that either one of them can take it for granted. This is going to be a heavyweight fight tonight, I think.
I do too. And, just to move on to next week, I'll just pick out some of the games to talk about. One of them is Seahawks and Cardinals. It's Thursday night game. I think the Cardinals really got to step into it and try to win this if they want to really prove that they're the team to beat right now after their loss. I think they need that. I think the
Yeah,
command.
both teams are 2-1. I saw an interesting line on that game. Seattle is giving a point and a half to Arizona, but Arizona is favored to win. Uh, Not favored. Their FPI is 52%. So I guess it's a pick 'em, you would say.
Right. I think another game to watch is the Commanders and Falcons. They're two other teams that really need to make a win and really keep show their, Chargers and Giants. Giants were going to get demoralized.
Well, we don't know the Redskins game. We don't know if Jaden Daniels is playing yet, right?
Correct.
And they are favored to win that game. The Falcons took an absolute beating this week.
Yeah.
They
So
got
they
destroyed.
need to, and that's going to be a tough game.
And their defense was looking really good. I know there was some special teams plays in that game that it got out of hand, but they've got to bounce back this week for sure.
And another game that's going to be a great game too, I think, is the Eagles and the Bucks.
So I was thinking about that earlier because I've been saying that the Eagles have not played their best game yet. They look beatable, but they're 3-0. And the Bucks, for all intents and purposes, should have lost to the Jets yesterday, but they've been playing some fairly inspired football. The quarterback has been good, not necessarily great, but he's been better than good. And the Eagles certainly have some holes. I'm not saying that they're still not the class of the NFC. I'm not willing to go there yet, but they don't mirror what they looked like last year just yet. And we didn't see the tush push rule. I think, they were talking about calling it tight this weekend. I don't think that was a factor. But for what it's worth, both teams are 3-0, and Philly's only a 3.5 point favorite, which is and the FPI was 55%.
Right.
So the Bucks are credited for their 3-0 start, and I think they're going to be in this game. I don't think Philly's going to walk all over them for sure.
Right.
But the Bucks will probably have a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter at some point.
So, I mean, you got the Colts playing the Rams. You don't know where that's going. I don't think
Well, that's
so.
that's a litmus test, I think, for the Colts,
I agree.
because the Rams are a good football team. They have a great coach. Obviously, their quarterback is tremendous. But Indiana is a story right now. Indianapolis, they're 3-0. Their quarterback has run for a touchdown and thrown for a touchdown in 3 straight games. He's making all the plays,
Which has never happened before.
And the Rams had a 19-point lead against the Eagles this weekend and completely blew it, and the Eagles covered on top of it, which is outrageous to me.
Well,
that is, that if you're the Rams and you're Sean McVay, you have to be like, how did we let that happen?
so we already talked about the Packers and the Cowboys. That's going to be an amazing match.
Spectacle.
And I think Ravens and Chiefs. There's a possibility the Ravens beat the Chiefs into submission.
That'll be the game that probably propels one of those teams in its specific direction.
I agree.
Because if the Ravens win that game,
maybe up or down.
Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen tonight, but you're playing the Chargers. I'm sorry, the Chiefs. That you're going to, if you're going to go to the playoffs, that's probably a team you expect to see make the playoffs. But if you beat them, you might set them on a path where they don't make the playoffs. But if you lose to them, you're going to be chasing them all season.
Right. And I think that's true. And I think, where did I
And
go?
they're already chasing Buffalo, right? They lost that game to Buffalo. They didn't finish. They should have finished that game. They didn't finish.
And then,
So
and then you're all of our favorite division game, the Jets and the Dolphins, right? The Dolphins need to pound the Jets into next week, but that always doesn't happen.
That is, I can tell you this. From watching Aaron Glenn and his exuberance on the sideline this weekend, If you don't think that that guy is looking at this game like it's his Super Bowl after
Right.
what the Dolphins did to him in his career, okay? I know that was 100 years ago, but Aaron Glenn was the corner
No, we don't
on
forget
the
in
on the
football.
fake spike play, and he's an all-time player, and he was embarrassed by that. And that's what we talk about. You know, you have to finish, you have to be prepared. So this guy is prepared. I mean, I can't imagine him not being prepared. And
Right.
maybe that was a lesson for him back then as a player, not to take anything for granted. So I think he's going to be in that locker room all week, inspiring these guys to play their best football and not take anything for granted. If they don't, if he doesn't do that, I'm not going to get on him. But if he does do that and this team doesn't respond, that's a problem. Miami has not looked good. I don't care how much talent they have. They haven't looked good. The coach made some bonehead decisions, kind of question it. If you're the Jets right now, with all the talent you have and all the talk and all this, the swag and the this and that, if you don't come in this week and show that you can play football and beat this team, I don't care that it's in Miami. It's a vacation, for crying out loud. You're playing in Miami in September. It's a gift. So,
Mhm.
you know, you're not. It's not December, so there's no excuses.
Even though it was
You got
130 on the field in Tampa
yeah,
Bay
it
last week.
was. Yeah. I mean, better that than the frigid cold, I guess.
Right.
But if they come out flat, if they don't come out and show that they're inspired to play football, if they're not out there putting helmets in ear holes and knocking the snot out of guys, then they're really less than what we even thought they were to begin with.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at. Next week, we're going to have to start talking about the Major League Baseball playoffs coming our way.
We will be in the playoffs next week,
Yeah.
it seems. Yeah, it's going to
So
be interesting.
we'll start talking about that next week. I watched a lot of F1 racing. I don't know if anyone out there watches it. I watched a lot this weekend. I watch every weekend. They're off, but I'm not going to really talk about it because other than Oscar, who's leading the world championship, crashing in the wall in the first turn and
Oh,
wrecking his car,
Jesus.
it was slippery, and I think he was having problems with the car. And he was a little flustered because he let the clutch out and the car stalled when the race went off. So,
Wow.
and he crashed his car in the qualifying. So instead of being at the pole position, which he has been for some time, he's really been racing well, and he's trying to make a move for the world championship. He ended up in the 20th position out of 20. So, uh, and he's been either pole 1, 2, or 3 all year long. So that's one of those things. But we'll leave that for another day as F1 starts to draw to a close. And teams, it was also nice to see the Williams team hit the pole for a change. But we're not going to talk about that today. So I think that about covers it.
I think so.
All right. So there it is. Another week. Good luck to the teams tonight. And we'll talk to you on Monday. Thank everybody for everything. Like and subscribe. Remember, we're live on YouTube every Monday at 5. We're live on Facebook, and we're live on X every Monday at 5. If you're not watching there, please, you can go on YouTube and all the major and watch our video. I edited a little bit, take out all our screw ups and post it. And then, but the live video is available there too. And the audio is available on all the major podcasting services. So, Justin, great job today. Thank you for everything. Thanks,
Steve, thank
everybody
you for
out
having me.
there.
I'm really
All
enjoying
right.
it.
And we'll talk soon.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.